I wish I could jump out, but I can't.
It's all
I
right.
can't jump.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure,
Okay,
thank you.
we're gonna keep going with our wealth for a minute here. I'm sure you probably heard of this growing up around here, but have you ever heard of the game where the question is, would you rather have one penny doubled every day for 30 days, or would you rather have $1 million? Have you ever heard of that game?
Yeah.
Have you ever done the math on it?
No.
So do you know the outcome? Do you know which is a better outcome?
I think it'd be the penny.
Yeah. When somebody first asked me this years ago, I was a little kid, and that for some reason I have a memory of being in a pew at church, and somebody asked me that question. And as an 8 or 9-year-old kid, I was sitting there thinking, like, how in the world is that even a question? Of course, I would rather have $1 million. Like, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, I hope you'll take a minute and actually do the math, and because maybe we're just full of it. Maybe we're just tricking you. If you take this penny, right? This one penny, and that's day one. And then on day 2, it turns into 2 pennies. And according to this game, on day 3, the penny turns into 4 pennies. Right? Now I have no idea if you can see that on the film or not. It doesn't really matter because you can imagine it. Day 4, it turns into 8 pennies, and so on. That's what the game is. And then you think, would you rather have $1 million, or would you rather have this series of doubling? It's an interesting thing. So on day 5, it would be 16. On day 6, it would be 32 cents, right? We're a fifth of the way through the month, and we're only to 32 cents. In other words, you're on your 5th flip, and you're only to 16 cents. And on your 6th flip, you're still only to 32 cents. So now, knowing that on day 6, you're only to 32 cents, would you rather have $1 million, or would you rather have the pennies doubling? I mean, this is day, this is day 6 now, and we're only to 16. I mean, if you just think off the top of your head, it just seems so unbelievable that it would even be a question. So I added a dime and a nickel there, so we're to 16. Here's a quarter and 2 pennies, so now we're to 32 cents. And there we are on day 6. There's a reason to play this game, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. It trains your brain to think about things the way you got to think about them to accumulate wealth. A lot of people think 5 cents doesn't matter, 10 cents doesn't matter. Yesterday, my son Charlie was joking to his sister. He's like, he made a joke. You think I keep pennies? Like, I don't got time for pennies. The reality is that we're all only 30 moves away from complete financial independence. 30 moves. You can do 30 moves in 30 days. You could do 30 moves in 30 months. You could do 30 moves in 30 years. I don't know how long it's going to take you. But the first 6, you only got to get to 32 cents. And you're already done the first 6. So now you only have 24 moves to make to be completely financially independent. And everybody has 32 cents, but the problem is everybody doesn't have the right mindset. Everybody doesn't think about their money as something that they can flip or grow. And that's part of what this exercise helps train your brain to do. But then once your brain becomes trained to that, you realize you're only 30 moves away from something really crazy. And that's why a lot of people, they get this mindset, retire in 3 years. A lot of people that get this mindset, their life completely changes in 5 years because it takes them 5 years to do 30 moves. Some people do 30 moves in only a month. And so their life completely changes in a month, right?
Well, what's the math? What happens at the end of 30?
Well, I'm not going to tell you today on wealth. You got to do the math. And then you got to start doing a flip, right? So you say, well, I'll just skip to round 12 when I only have, round 12, you only have like $32. 12 days into the program, 12 flips into the program, you only have $32. And you got 18 more flips to completely change your life. But the problem is a lot of people, when they make that 50,000, they could be on day 20 of the program and ready to really change their life. And instead, what do they do with the 50,000?
They buy a Tesla?
Yeah, they spend it. So then they have to go all the way back to day one and start with 1 penny again. See, the trick that what happens when most people win the lottery? What happens when most people sign their big contract? Why did Patrick Ewing say that he was broke? Is because most people don't think of their money as a tool that can develop their freedom.
Yeah.
They think of money as a toy.
I think of money as a toy.
Yeah, so you spend it and you have a fun time. And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't spend any money. That's ridiculous. Of course you should spend some money. But if 1 penny can turn into something significant in only 30 moves, and if you already have 5,000, you're already done with the first 15 moves.
Yeah.
I mean, you could skip to the point in your life where you only need to do 15 moves. Let's say you have 4,000 in the bank. Okay, now you're down to 14 moves. You don't even have to do 30 anymore. But you have to have the right mindset, right? Way before we ever flipped a house, guess what your mom and I flipped?
A car.
We did. We flipped a car way before we ever flipped a house. Guess what we flipped before we flipped a car?
I don't know.
Tupperware. Guess what we flipped before we did Tupperware?
How do you flip Tupperware?
Well, we got it for a good price and we sold it for a fair price.
Okay.
Right? You don't get to pick any price you want when you sell stuff. You have to sell it at the market value.
Yeah.
But if you get it for a price better than the market value, you can sell it for a fair price.
Mm-hmm.
And you can flip a little bit of money. Right?
Yeah.
So before we ever were able to flip a house, we had to have the right mindset. And where do you develop the right mindset? You develop it by flipping some Tupperware. You develop by flipping some time. See, that's what most people flip first. They flip a little bit of their time. They say, hey, I got an extra 2 hours. I'm going to turn it into $20. Well, $20 is row like 11 of the 30-step process.
Mm-hmm.
You can skip right to row 11 and only have 18 more moves to go.
Yeah.
See, and anybody can do 18 moves. It's not like only you can do 18 moves, but you have to stop spending all the money you get. See, if I flip my penny into 2 pennies and then I spend my 2 pennies, that never happens. Then I get another penny and I flip it again into 2 pennies, but then I spend my 2 pennies again. Now I'm back to step 1 again. Nothing wrong with going back to step 1, but I make a little money. This is what we all do with our work. You ever heard of being week to week with your paycheck? This is what week to week is. You flip your time into more money, then you spend your money.
Yeah.
Then you go back to step 1. So then you flip your time into more money again. So you have to have the ability to take some of that money away from the normal grind and actually let it grow. Let some of the money grow separate from the fun, from the toys, from the lifestyle. Have some of it set apart. And then hopefully you don't just have that under your mattress or in the bank where it's earning negative interest compared to inflation. You have to have it in actual assets where you can actually flip it. because it does take 30 steps to get to where you want to be. And so what if I get really excited? Oh my gosh, this is going so well. I'm all the way up to my 4th flip. I'm going to buy a big fat diamond ring and try to impress my wife. All right, there it goes. And now I'm going to impress my wife by being back to square one. So nothing against buying a ring. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it helps to have some separate money that actually can flip. Because if you can do it 30 times, if you can flip it 30 times, starting at a penny, you're financially free. Now, right now in the whole United States of America, according to a guy who studies this, there's only 13 million people that are completely financially independent. What that means is they can go to work, and a lot of them do go to work because they enjoy what they do. So they don't have to go to work. They could live the rest of their life without working while still being able to do what they want to do. That's financial freedom. And according to this guy, there's only 13 million of them in America. Now there's 320 million. What that means is there's about, well, you can do the math on that yourself, but it's about a third of 1%? No, 10%. It's around 3% of America is financially independent. But here's the thing, anybody in America can flip 1 penny into 2. Anybody. Every single human can do that. And if you learn how to do that, guess what you can do next? You can learn how to flip 2 pennies into 4. And if you don't spend those 2 pennies when you flip them into 4, if you actually have this thing in a separate thing and you learn, then you can flip it into 8. Now, if you can flip it into 8, you can learn how to flip it into 16. I'm not saying you know it already. You might only know how to flip it 1 to 2, but you can learn this. And then even if you make a bad flip and you lose all of this, you're only 3 steps away from being back to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And you can learn and 30 flips to financial independence. So hey, if you're watching this video or you're listening to it, comment below how far along the path you are to financial freedom, right? How much do you actually have set aside that's growing? Maybe it's in stocks, maybe it's in real estate. You know, what step in the 30-step process are you in? Some people get beyond the 30 steps, you know, and they get into the multi-millions and the multi-billions. That's fine, but you don't need to get beyond the 30 steps to be financially free. A single person in America can live on minimum wage. You can't raise your family very well on minimum wage, but you know how much you earn if you earn minimum wage your whole life in Oregon? If you work 40 years at minimum wage, do you know how much you earn in 40 years?
Your whole life?
40 years. I mean, if you work your whole career for minimum wage in Oregon. Oregon minimum wage is $14.75.
Okay. I guess you'd make like $1,200,000.
Right. That's exactly right. So you can work minimum wage for your 40 years and you can end up with 1.2 million that's probably all going to be spent. But you could support yourself and live on that for your entire life in Oregon.
That's like 30,000 a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
30,000 a year. Yeah. Or you could flip a penny 30 times and have the same amount.
It's kind of fun flipping stuff too. Like I flipped a couple cars before, just to save up for my mission in Ecuador, and we would just buy cars from the auction, you know, that had like minimal damage, that had been in wrecks, you know, but usually like one car I bought just had a bad front bumper, like a broken front bumper I had to replace. And the new one I got was a different color, so I had to paint it too. and the inside of the car smelled like smoke and was like covered in garbage and trash. So I cleaned that up. Like it took a little while, but then I was able to help someone get a nice, clean, good running car for cheaper than buying it. You know, if I wouldn't have been able to get in the auction, or if it wouldn't have crashed. And then another car I got was like, we had to do like 0 repairs on it, but it had been in a crash, so it was like cheaper, and it was super nice. It was like a 2018 Kia Sorento, something like that.
That was a Kia Optimizer.
Okay, but while we were like trying to sell it, we got to drive it around for a while.
Yeah.
Just a nice little sports car.
It's probably the nicest
Super
car
fun.
we've ever driven around here.
Yeah.
Everybody liked driving that car.
We had to convince ourselves not to keep it because it was even a nice blue, like my dad's favorite color.
It was gorgeous. Shiny metallic, but anyways. Yeah, so it is fun, and you learn a lot, and the key is to kind of separate some of that money. I've seen a lot of people that start flipping stuff, and then they just immediately start spending all the money. Well, that's fine. I mean, it's their choice. I'm not saying you're bad or anything, but if you just keep it in a separate account and you keep it flipping, and you can keep your hands out of it for just those 30 flips, then you're free.
Student loans, man. Just live off student loans and flip your money.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
So learn how to flip a little bit. Learn how to flip your time, flip some of your money, keep it separate. It's tough when we got that first check for $63,000 from our first flip of the house. It was tough not to spend that. It would have been fun to have a fancy Christmas and get a nice car, and like that would have been fun, but that was the flipping money, and we put it into the next property, you know, and that was why we were able to get the next property and why we were able to get the next check. And so you see what I mean? Like it's tempting when you get that big check. It's tempting when we flipped that car and we got the check for $4,000. We were like, whoa, this is amazing, $4,000. And then, but if you spend that $4,000, then you're all the way back to zero.
Right. And instead of a nice new car, nice Christmas, what was it, like 2 flips later, you're building yourself $1 million mansion.
Yeah.
You know, like that quick.
Yeah, it was kind of quick, and it was kind of surprising. So, and it doesn't always go perfect. We'll tell you more about that in other episodes, but the principle is still true. See, even my 5-year-old daughter can flip a penny. She can. She could go find something else and sell it for 2 pennies. You know, there's a whole episode on YouTube. This guy named Ryan, I can't remember his last name, but he's a funny kid, and he does this YouTube channel, and he says things like, I'm going to go across the whole country on 1 penny. And then every day he spends flipping his penny into more money. And he sees how far he can get, or if he can get across the country, or if he can, and you know, he does DoorDash and different things. He flips his time, he flips, and he, you know, sells bath bombs, he does all kinds of stuff, but he's doing different days of this flip. Like when he gets to day 12, he's trying to turn $128 into $256 in one day. Yeah. And he did make it. He couldn't do 1 flip every single day, but
just kind of making trades. Was he just trading?
Trading his time, or he building some stuff, or you know, it's his YouTube channel. But
one time I went to California to visit my cousins, and they must have seen this because that's all they wanted to talk about. Like, guys, we can just go door to door and ask people to trade us for like our Nerf gun, okay? Yeah. And then they just start trading stuff, and one time they told me they got all the way up to like an electric scooter, you know? just started off trading like,
so it's kind of fun.
$1 or whatever.
And it's a good thing to learn, and it's, you know, you can't really learn to be financially free so you can do the work that God's calling you to do the mission in life that God's calling you to do. It's interesting on that note, I'll just kind of mention, God did tell the apostles to go out without person script. He said that when he sent them on one of their missions, he said, go out without person script and trust that people will feed you and everything. But then later, he said, that time is past. If you got a purse, put some money in it. If you don't have a sword, get a sword.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of attention is put on that moment when he said to go out without person script, but he was building their faith. For most of us, he doesn't tell us to do that. He tells us to go out and to be prepared and to be wise like a serpent, you know.
Yeah.
You know, he says, don't just be a dummy out there. Don't be gullible. He's like, learn to do things. Be wise. So you see these people that win the lottery, and it's unfortunate, but most of them, 3 or 4 years later, they're back in the same situation.
Yeah.
And you see people that have built big companies, and they might go through a hard time. The market might change. They might lose everything. But guess what? You see them doing 3 or 4 years later.
On a cruise, on a yacht.
Yeah, but since they know how to do that, they then do it again. It might be a different industry. It might be a different product. So if you learn how to do this, you will always have that with you. And if you teach your kids how to do that, they will always have it with them. And then no matter what happens in life, no matter what setbacks come, they can still rebuild.
On my mission, sometimes I would just sit there thinking or praying, like, why can't I just be like Nephi from the Book of Mormon, but like the third Nephi, who just got transported from like village and city to city by God. Like when they would try to kill him, he would just disappear, bro, and he's in a new city. I was like, you know, why can't I just be carried by God, you know, like just be the most efficient, productive servant, you know? But that's not always where he wants us, you know? Like at that point, he doesn't always just want us to walk blindly. Sometimes it's like, hey, learn to make decisions for yourself, you know, learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
Go through some challenges so that you can appreciate you can help other people get through those same challenges that you've experienced, and appreciate the times when it's peaceful, you know, when it's easy. So,
yeah, that's a really good point. It's a really good point. God loves participants. He loves effort. He loves it when we learn what he wants. He's trying to teach us, and we apply it in our own lives. And like you said, we don't just live blindly. Sometimes I like to think of it as a faithful faith, not a blind faith. Right. My faith is built because I've seen him work in so many wonderful ways. So now my faith isn't blind anymore. My faith is built on my faith, that I've seen him happen. I saw 1 turn into 2, so I believe in that now. I saw 2 turn into 4, I believe in that now. Nobody can take that away from me. I know how to do that. And when you see God's hand in so many different ways, you know, nobody can take that away. You know, nobody can tell me that didn't happen, you know, so it kind of applies across the board. Anyways, we're just kind of getting chatty, but thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Thanks for talking, Tucker. And again, I want to know where you're at in your journey to freedom, whether it be financial or health or wealth. I'm sorry, financial, wealth, health, or freedom from government. You know, freedom from, I shouldn't say from government. I should say from government overreach. there is righteous government, and there's many things that our government does that are necessary and constitutional. But I'm talking about being free from the overreach, and when our government is doing things that don't align with our God-given liberties. Right.
The press.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, you guys.